And it looks like we are live. Going to let the stream breathe for just a couple of minutes here while I grab in our Mile High Huddle Facebook group and get everybody in here in our wonderful viewing audience, our great community out there. Get everyone tied in together. Mile High hello, everybody in Broncos country. Welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as per usual, is my good friend and colleague. He is Mile High Huddle's senior NFL draft analyst, the one and only Erick Trickel. Erick, dude, last show before next week, I will not be here. I think it was Dale that was asking if I was going to be here or not. Yes, I will be here tonight, obviously, as you can tell. But next week, man, I am making the best decision that I've ever made in my entire life by marrying the love of my life, my best friend, Samantha. And I'm getting super, super excited about this, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm super excited. For a bit of a spoiler, we're going to have Luke Polglaze joining me for next week's show yet again. And we're going to be breaking down what some of the rookies are bringing to the Broncos. So excited for that. Excited for here to this conversation. And of course it's the downtime of the NFL offseason. There's not much going on. I mean, there's a couple press conferences that we've had. There's OTAs, mini camps. There's just not a whole lot of news. So makes things a little bit difficult, but hey, we get a look at the roster. We get a look at the other players on here. No more quarterback dominating conversation. And this year, especially with the change in the coaching staff, talking about some of the veterans that can be pushed off the roster is going to be interesting because with the new coaching staff, there's some favorites of the old coaching staff that they don't have that back in them anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple names we're going to get to here specifically. A couple of these more recent draft picks, guys that are still on rookie contracts, that really are going to have to watch out for some of these rookies that the Broncos drafted in this past April's draft. But before we get to all of that, guys, want to say hello to everybody in the chat. We've got a bunch of people wishing me a congratulations. Ray Osborne, Greg Smith in here as well. Kathy Lund saying hi. We've got Dale Fleming again. Ernie Mays has jumped in the house. Travis Weber jumping in saying, good evening, Lance and Eric, and how are the rookies looking? We'll get into that here in just a few minutes here. But
you missed the Duchess coming in.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got the Duchess, Miss Michaela Parker, who it was an absolute blast to be around. This young lady was so much fun to hang out at the Mile High Huddle meet and greet. It's good to see the Duchess of the Huddle Up podcast, the Duchess of Mile High Huddle, coming in to join us. Now we just need the Queen. Where's Christy at? We need the Queen to jump in here as well. Let's see here. We've also got Kathy Lund. Mark Hoynak is in the house. EJ. Yeah, guys, welcome in. Shades, this is a new name to me, or at least one that I'm not necessarily familiar with very much. Shades, welcome into Dove Valley Deep Divers. We appreciate you for joining us, and also good evening to you guys. Before we get into it here, run through just a couple of quick matters of business. I'll make this quick today. You guys can find us on Twitter by finding me at Sanderson MHH, and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also for Scott at Scout Kennedy, and Scott is behind the scenes. We do hit him this week, so thank you, Scott, for joining us today. Also, guys, at Mile High Huddle, that's the mother account where you guys can find breaking news and analysis on your Denver Broncos and find out pretty much everything that goes on with the Huddle Up Podcast Network. Now, with that, Eric, where do you want to start here? Do we want to start? Because the first name, do you want to start offensively or you want to start defensively? Because the couple of names that I really want to focus on are on the defensive side of the football.
Well, first, Michaela coming in with $20.
Hey.
Michaela, we appreciate that. It's part of the reason why you're the Duchess here with the Huddle Up Podcast Network. He said, and she just says, "Congratulations, Lance."
Thank you, Michaela, and thank you very much. We appreciate that, and we appreciate your support, and thank you for being here, man. So, Eric, where do we want to start here? Do we want to go defensively first from the secondary forward, or do you want to start on the offensive side of the football as per usual?
Pick a name, we'll hit it out of the park.
All right, so the first one that I really kind of want to look at, and it's a former third-round pick out of the University of Iowa, Michael Ojemudia, the cornerback, who has been kind of up and down, hit and miss. He struggled a little bit out of the gate his rookie season, really didn't kind of fit in very well with what the defensive scheme. Like, he's a good fit for the scheme, but just took him some time to kind of learn everything, get his bearings underneath him. He got torched by Juju Smith-Schuster. He got torched by Chase Claypool in the Pittsburgh Steelers game a couple of years ago. So that was one name to watch. And with the moves that the Broncos have made, bringing in K'Wan Williams, bringing in Damari Mathis, they signed Fayon Hicks as well, another late round draft pick, and they brought in Blesson Austin to come in and kind of compete for another spot here. There's a handful of names. Sengbasi coming back. There's a handful of names here that this roster could potentially move on from a former third-round pick, one of the later picks that John Elway made in his career.
All right, so to get to this, your top three corners. I mean, these are the guys projected to be the starter: Ronald Darby, Quan Williams, Patrick Surtain, right?
Yep.
Okay, who's after them?
Damari Mathis has to be in the consideration of that. Now,
Damari Mathis and Michael Ojemudia. The other guys you mentioned, Bless Austin. I mean, there's a reason why he was still available. Fayon Hicks, a seventh round pick, couple undrafted free agents. They're there to compete for the depth of it. Asong Bossi has proven that he's not quite good enough as a slot corner. Maybe he's able to stick around because of special teams. I think him and Hicks will have the battle there. I think Hicks is going to be moving inside. But Michael Ojemudia, he's got good versatility. I don't think he's at risk of losing his roster spot, to be perfectly honest. As much as I want to, just simply because, get a crap on the University of Iowa and Nick, he's one guy that I think is, I don't want to say 100% safe, but I think he's relatively safe.
I don't necessarily want to say that he's going to lose his roster spot, but he's definitely got a long ways to go to see himself get onto the field. I will say that, because if you're going to run 5-6 DBs a lot of the time, you're probably going to get another safety onto the field. And another guy we'll talk about here in just a few minutes, and Kareem Jackson, is a guy that seems to be getting a big fill in there as well, with his ability to play in the box and play great in run support. If you're going to have lighter defensive backs, you need guys that are going to be willing to tackle, willing to go out there and play with physicality, and Kareem Jackson kind of does that. However, with Kareem Jackson, there's also a conversation here of Delarian Turner-Yell, a guy that coming out of Oklahoma. The Broncos made him a 5th round pick. So there's definitely another name there to watch out for. But that's why, where are you going to put Michael Ojemudia? If you need another guy that's going to fill into the box, does Michael Ojemudia have that ability to come? I mean, he's a pretty decent tackler for the most part. He's got to figure out a way to bring his arms and wrap up. But at the same time, there's still some issues here.
Ronald Darby's had one full season. He's only played one full season. That was the season before it. So in a 17-game season, how many games do you think he's actually playing in? Because I don't think he plays in more than 13 or 14. I think when Nick was on here, I think I said 12 was where I'd put 12.5 is where I'd put the over-under, I believe. I don't remember off the top of my head. So, I mean, he's not competing for a starting job, and that's perfectly fine. He's there for depth. He's there for special teams. So when you go into these bigger packages, you're going to be looking at some of these safeties. Kareem Jackson, who's probably his third safety. And depending on the look, depending on the situation, he can get on the field that way. I mean, he has a chance to be the number 4 corner here. It's not Damari Mathis's job. It's not going to be handed to him. It's currently Michael Ojemudia is that Mathis has to compete to try to take over. So just because he's not going to see the field, may not see the field a lot, I mean, it's no biggie. I mean, he still offers up plenty of versatility as a depth piece that's still probably going to see the field.
Yeah, and he's athletic enough that you're going to see him on the field in special teams too. I mean, he's got good length, he's got good athleticism, he's got pretty decent speed. He can make it work. There's a way for him to get onto the field and still have some kind of an impact. And go back to your Ronald Darby point. That's a really good point. With Ronald Darby being an injury-prone player, he's only played one full 16-game season. Now you're at 17 games. That's a really good point. I didn't necessarily put that into my line of thinking here when I wrote down Michael Ojemudia's name, but he was the very first one that came to mind when Damari Mathis was drafted. That's another boundary cornerback that plays with physicality. He's got really good ball skills. That just seems to me like that's the regime change coming up. And Ojemudia is also coming off of a hamstring that really kind of hampered him all of last season. So what's up, Eric? You got something?
And no, I mean, I was gonna say and he came in and last year he played really well against the Kansas City Chiefs.
He did.
But all the focus is on Ronald Darby for the injuries. Quan Williams, he's never played a full season.
That's fair.
I mean, he's played in 15 games once. Every other season, 14. That's his highest. Played in 14 games last year. He started only 8, which, hey, as a nickel corner, he's not going to start every single game. He's still got a high amount of reps. But there's plenty of injury concerns there. between both Darby and Williams. So I don't know. Ojemudia, obviously, I mean, anything can happen, especially that, new coaching staff. But hearing that Evero was high on Ojemudia prior to the draft and that he was pounding the table for him, I think he's going to get his shot.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I want to run back to the chat here really fast. We've got Albert Knoppers, who was also at the Mile High Huddle meet and greet and was just absolutely wonderful. Him and Michelle were great people to deal with, and to converse with and everything like that. They made these really cool mailboxes for Chad and Zach that I'm still waiting on mine. Albert, hint, hint. I'm just playing, but congratulations with your upcoming marriage, Lance. Thank you, Albert. I appreciate you on that one. There's an interesting conversation here going on with Dale and with Michaela Parker talking about the Facebook contest or the YouTube contest. Michaela's saying that Dale, if she wins this month, that she will forfeit to Dale so that Dale can get a nice prize. And she also says that he's been so kind. So thank you, Michaela. That's awesome. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Okay, moving on here. I want to go back to Kareem Jackson here really fast. Delaren Turner-Yell, another guy that we kind of just touched on a little bit. Probably going to be more of a backup safety, but another guy that played a lot last season, played very well at times when he was on the field, had a couple of interceptions in Caden Stearns. Are the Broncos going to be trying to get him onto the field with multiple times a game, multiple times throughout the season? Is he going to win that starting job as that strong safety alongside Justin Simmons?
I mean, obviously, it's between Stearns and Jackson. I think whoever loses it, that's your number 3 safety. Delaren Turner-Yell, he's a 5th-round pick. Like, you're unlikely, barring extreme circumstances of injuries and stuff like that. Especially in this secondary, you really don't want a rookie to see a lot of snaps if you can help it.
Right.
I think Delaren Turner-Yell is probably a guy that this year, I mean, he'll see his snaps, but it won't be a lot of snaps, as he just works and develops on defense as a special teams player. And then next year, he'll probably compete for that number 3 safety spot, replacing Kareem Jackson.
Yeah. What about PJ Locke? How does he figure into this situation?
I mean, he has a chance to be the number 4 guy over Delaren Turner-Yell. I think mostly if he's kept, it's a good chance it's mostly for special teams play. He played quite well there. I mean, he did all right on defense, but special teams is where, he kept seeing the field last year. It will be interesting to see. I think his battle is more so with J.R. Reed and Jamar Johnson, more so than Delaren Turner-Yell, Kareem Jackson, those guys.
Right. Well, I completely forgot about Jamar Johnson. I know that was a guy that you were really high on in the draft process last year. So with him, and I was really high on him as well. When the Broncos went out and got Caden Stearns, they went out and they got Jamar Johnson a couple of picks later. I was really excited about the safety depth of this team moving forward. So Jamar Johnson, PJ Locke, Delaren Turner-Yell, that rounds out a very depthy, rangy secondary aspect.
I would be very surprised if Jamar Johnson makes this roster. I liked him because of what he could do in coverage, but I mean, it was very easy to see that sometimes physicality wasn't his strong suit. His run fits wasn't exactly the best. He wasn't super quick to trigger downhill. And when you're looking at the number 4, number 5 safety, you got to contribute on special teams, and he just doesn't seem to have it. So I'd be surprised if he makes the roster. I think they've effectively gone and replaced him. He has a chance, but it just seems like the odds are stacking.
Yeah. Andrew Baker jumping in here. What's up, Valley Boys, Scott and Broncos Country? Who of our draft picks are you most excited about, and who might make an impact this year? So I'm glad that you're bringing this question here, Andrew. We're kind of breaking it down for you, but first things first. I had a film article drop on Nick Bonito the other day. Go give that a look and check that out at milehighhuddle.com. I have to scroll down a little bit. It's kind of falling down the news feed there, but go check that out, because I do think, obviously, with Bradley Chubb and his injury concerns, you've got Randy Gregory with his injury concerns coming off the shoulder. They're going to insert Nick Bonito into that rotation because they've got to get better at that edge spot. I mean, Malik Reed, for what he is, an undrafted free agent who's been playing decent for what he is. They need to improve there. Jonathan Cooper still has a long ways to go in his development. He played nicely. I will admit that he played nicely as a rookie this past season, but he's still got a long ways to go. So Nick Bonito is obviously the first one that jumps to mind. Greg Dulcich, the tight end out of UCLA, that's another one that seems to be a big piece that's going to factor in. And then I think that Enioma Awazurike is going to have a huge role on this defense. And we're going to get to that next guy here in just a second. Eric, what do you think?
I think most of them could have a pretty sizable impact this year. I'm not sure any of them end up as starters, but I mean, Nick Bonito, he's your number 3 edge rusher. He's going to see a good amount of action on the field, getting after the quarterback. Greg Dulcich, he's probably going to be your number 2 tight end, depending on how often they use 2 tight end sets. He has a way to go there. And then Eoma Wazarike, as being part of a rotation on the defensive line, I think he's got a pretty good chance to see a good amount of reps. Montreal Washington, obviously, if he wins a returner job, he has a good chance there. But outside of that, I think just mainly depth roles, barring injury. I mean, Mathis, obviously, depending on what happens with Darby and Williams, Mathis can see the field quite a bit. So there's definitely chances for it.
Yeah. Gary Leeds Palmer jumping in here. Hey, how's it going, Gary? Thanks for joining us, man. Hey, Lance, Eric, and Scott. It's good to see you guys. Go Broncos, and let's ride. With that, guys, I want to go and grab this really fast. Update the stars rankings really quick. As you can see on the bottom of the ticker here, we've got a 200,000 stars goal. It's about 31% complete. There's 63,000, just over 63,000 of the 200,000 stars that we want to get. The rankings look as follows. Gary Leeds Palmer is the guy leading everything right now. This was before tonight's show, so mind you, this is going to change this a little bit. But then you also have Tim Hoffman in second place. You're going to get Mark Schrader in third place, Phil McLaughlin, and then I don't have the fifth one here because I kind of cut it off, so apologies for that. And Scott, if you get just a second here, would you be so kind to grab the YouTube rankings? We'll grab those here in just a few minutes. So thank you, Gary, for joining us, and thank you all for joining us here on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Now, I want to go back to Eneoma Uwazurike really fast here because this kid was, and Scott's saying it was Jacob Foster down at the bottom, number 5 on that big board there. But Uwazurike, this kid is an absolute animal. He's an athletic freak. He is 6'4", 315 pounds. His arms are literally long enough. He can tie his shoes without bending his waist. He plays with amazing strength, that uses that length and leverage so well, and he is versatile. He can play anywhere from the 0 all the way out to the 5 technique, playing as a kind of an edge defender, and 315 pounds. Like, that's a big boy moving a lot of meat there. It brings me back to this full discussion here, though, with Mike Purcell. And what does his role look like here? Is Uwazurike a guy that can play that nose tackle and be effective as a pass rusher? I mean, he had 9.5 sacks this last season. That's more than Travon Walker had his entire career at the University of Georgia. Is there an opportunity for Uwazurike to kick Mike Purcell off of this roster? And also with Matt Henningsen as well.
Well, I mean, you throw the little dig at Travon Walker, but I mean, you have to factor in usage here too.
Yes,
so
yes.
The way Travon Walker was used was drastically different. But I think DJ Jones' replacement is on the roster, obviously. I think it's DJ Jones. I don't think Mike Purcell makes it. I think that he's on his way out. Looking at his salary cap hit, they could free up like $3 million to move on from him. And yeah, I just think that Uwazurike, I mean, he'll have a role at the very least, if not starter. But yeah, something. I mean, I just don't think Mike Purcell's gonna make it.
I tend to agree with you on this one. And the big reason why is because Purcell, even though he did take a pretty sizable step forward there a couple of years ago in terms of getting after the quarterback, he really is just a 2-down run stuffer, kind of a plug. He has a really good first step. He penetrates really well as far as a nose tackle, 0-1 technique. But he just doesn't offer very much upside as a pass rusher. He's never going to. He's 28, 29 years old, something like that. He was never a great pass rusher, even going back to his days at Wyoming. He's bounced around the league. You got a sizable cap hit you can get rid of and kind of save some money, move forward if you need to, make a trade at the deadline, sign a free agent for injury or something like that. This is a piece that's probably not going to make it here. Now, the big reason why I say Uwazurike, Henningsen, those guys like that, and McTelvin Agim is another player here that really seems to have a sizable role moving forward. Those guys can all get after the passer. And with Mike Purcell, you're just not getting that. Scott says 2.8 million savings on Mike Purcell, by the way.
Yeah.
Are you all right, Eric? Do you need to?
No, I think I got to go. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys. Something's just not feeling super well. I was sick yesterday. But sorry I got to dip out here. But thank you guys, and hope you guys enjoyed the show. Before I get here, the Lance, I want to say super happy for you for getting married and everything, man. Sorry I couldn't make it. I really wanted to. appreciate you, and I think I'm with everybody here at MMHH that's been saying congratulations.
Thank you, Eric.
Sorry,
I
guys.
appreciate you,
I
brother.
got to get out of here, but I'm
Yeah.
just not feeling well.
Yeah,
Thank you guys. Thank you for your support and everything.
Go take care of yourself, man. Scott's going to jump in here in just a second. We'll get you taken care of. Thanks, everybody. There he goes. Erick Trickel not feeling too well, but that's quite all right. We got you in good hands here. Okay. So let's see here. This is the Super Chat Superstar segment here. The DWI guys jumping in at the number 1 spot over on YouTube. Those guys are absolutely fantastic. They've jumped in here a couple of times over the last couple of weeks and been a very big star of the show. As far as they do a really good job with building the Broncos guys every single morning, or the Broncos for Breakfast guys with Nick and Scott. They do a great job in the morning showing all of their support. Michael Ronquillo, who is a great friend of the show, not only on YouTube, but on Facebook as well. He messages us every single day after the show saying we did a great job over on Twitter as well. Michaela Parker has some work to do here to get up to that number 1 spot and win Dale that jersey. Pobby jumping back in the house here. We got Tanner Holst as well. Dale out in Hawaii doing his thing. Sam, Shane Tuttle. Those are the top 8 as far as the Super Chat Superstars. So thank you all for all of your wonderful support. Let's get this out of the way here, and we'll welcome in Scott Kennedy. Scott, how you doing, man?
I'm a little worried for Erick.
I am too.
I hope he's, he said he wasn't feeling well. I start hearing heart palpitations and sweating. I start, he's young enough that hopefully everything's all good, and he just needs a time to relax a little bit and feel better. So hopefully he's feeling better, but it's the least I can do is hop in. And, I haven't talked to Denver Broncos fans today. I got to be part of Thomas's on the back end of Thomas's Legends of Mile High show this morning, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
Started getting a little bit more, a lot of feedback from the fans from the morning time. So good to be here. Now, I wanted to hit on Mike Purcell just a little bit.
Okay.
Because you mentioned, it's if he's not any good, that's one thing. And again, that's somebody's money that you're spending. He's about 4.3 with 1 point in dead cap. So you're saving the team $4 million that you don't have to pay out.
Right.
Or that you've already paid out. And I always say that's somebody's money. That's somebody that just like, listen, if I'm the owner of the team, it's like, do I need this guy or would I rather put $4 million back in my bank account? Now it saves you about 2.8 on the salary cap, and for me, if he's serviceable, that's not enough savings for a serviceable nose guard. If he's not serviceable, then you make those changes without a doubt. So for me, it becomes a question of more along the lines of, is he good enough or is he not? Because he's not really paid that much money, in my opinion.
So, like I said, and like I was talking with Erick there, it's just you've got all of these younger guys that are coming up on smaller number contracts and stuff like that, and you are going to save just a little bit. Yeah, like you said.
But who at nose guard, Lance? Who at nose guard?
That's the big thing, and I'm not exactly sure the correct answer to that question. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because what does Ejiro Evero want to do? Does he want to be an odd front coverage or an odd front seven, or does he want to be an even front? So if you're taking away that nose tackle completely, if you're running a 3 and a 5 technique or something like that, or even say you do have that 2-eye technique, something that Awazariki can play, something that Telvin Agim can play, something that you're going to get a little bit out of Draymond Jones there as well. I mean, you've got Matt Henningsen, another guy that you just brought in. So if you're moving forward away from that odd front where you do need that 2-gapping kind of a plug, which Purcell does a really good job of, and he's also a great 1-gap penetrator as well. Like you're losing something there, but if you're trying to like get more pass rusher, get more ability to get after the quarterback with a little bit lighter front, this is the right way to go, in my opinion. Phil jumping in here.
I think we've heard Phil coming in with some stars thing. Says get well, Erick. Absolutely. Congratulations, Lance. Yes, thank you for sure. And welcome, Scott. So thank you. Appreciate you, Phil. And the diligence that you've gone through to try and make sure you're getting those stars in. I know it's been tough. If DJ Jones is playing some of the defensive tackle nose guard spot, then they're not afraid to get a little lighter.
Yep.
So, that is as much of a tell for me that I've heard so far over the course of the last, I don't know, is it 2 months? It feels like you've had a regime change for a year or 2 years already.
Right.
That Fangio thing seems long gone. But really, it's still pretty much brand new. So I think, to me, that was one of the bigger tells. And Michaela coming in with the Michaela bomb, the hot pink, the fuchsia, one of my favorite colors, actually. I liked it better when I was a lot blonder. Now I'm like ashen gray here. To feel better, Eric, we all can echo that one. It says, I'm curious about what Dulcich can become. Look out, Albert O. Now, how much do you think they are competing for a spot, the same type of spot, and do you think they could split time? I don't know. You needed a second tight end for sure. You had one, Albert Okwuegbunam. So you needed a second one without a doubt. So you got one. Does he push Albert Okwuegbunam for a starting spot, or is he learn the ropes? He can come in and be a jumbo receiver, maybe an H-back, maybe some fullback even, as a big jumbo receiver mismatch weapon. I don't know. I don't see him. I don't see him as a huge threat to Okwuegbunam early, but he could be.
I actually do, because I think he runs a lot crisper routes. He's a former wide receiver at his time back in high school. He transitioned to the tight end position at UCLA. So he still has that kind of that grassroots background of being a route runner. He understands those subtle nuances, and you can see that all over his tape at UCLA. So I do think that there's going to be an opportunity for him to, it may not be week one, but you're going to see a transition to a Greg Dulcich, because he also is a better blocker than Albert Okwuegbunam at the point of attack. I think that he can line him up in line. You can throw him out in the slot. You can get very versatile with this young player, and it may take him a little bit to kind of get moving forward, but that's the tight end position for you as well. It's one of the most difficult positions to translate from college to the NFL, because there's such a size and strength and speed gap that you got to really work through. So with Dulcich, he has the athleticism. He's not necessarily the most explosive long speed athlete, but he does have the ability to take the top off, running those vertical routes, running the deep overs and stuff like that. So I do think that you're going to be able to see him kind of take into that into the snaps a little bit, but it's not going to be early. I think it's going to be later down the stretch of the season.
And he's plenty fast. He's plenty fast. Yes. I've seen, excuse me.
Well, and so is Albert O too.
I've seen guys running in the 4.4s that can't change directions at all. So that L cone and shuttle for me is so much more important than a straight 40 time, especially for a jumbo athlete, for the linebackers, the tight ends, and anybody in between. It's a much better tell for me. And like I've said, I don't want him lining up and having to chip a 300-pound 3-4 defensive end. He's going to get outmatched. But what he is really good at is getting to the second level.
Yes.
With that athleticism, he's really good, and he can get in the way, which is all you need to do to steal an edge. To get a guy like Javonte Williams a crease, all you got to do is get in the way, of a linebacker coming across. So get to the second level, scrape up, and take some. So I think he's a serviceable blocker. But if I'm in running situations, I don't necessarily want him on the line by himself. As part of a double tight set, that's one thing. But I actually, Lance, I think this is our first time on a show together.
It is,
just you and I. So it's kind of cool. Here we go. What was I saying about? Now I forgot. I confused myself. We talked about underrated players. I actually picked Okwuegbunam as one of my guys for offense, because we've seen what he's capable of doing when he's given the opportunity. And everybody was talking in the national media like, oh, they've got to draft a tight end. They need a replacement for Noah Fant. They need a replacement for Noah Fant. Well, they've got one. So I think he was very well overlooked with the size, the speed, all of the. He's already there. That's a certain advantage right there when you got one guy on the roster already. That I like Albert Okwuegbunam and what he can bring to this offense. So like Michaela, though, I'm also very interested in how they use Dulcich, because I love versatility. Big jumbo athletes.
Yep. Well, and I kind of gave a little bit more detailed breakdown on Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards last night. So if you guys get an opportunity to check that out, broncoscountrytonight.com, go check out my interview that we did about 15 minutes or so, where I was talking more about like Kate Otten and the ability that he has as a blocker, and how I was kind of disappointed that the Broncos went with Dulcich just because he's not that great of a blocker at the point of attack. You do want him getting out in front and getting up to the second level and stuff like that. Otten has the technique and the ability to just be a grinder at that on the line of scrimmage. He can take down some bigger defensive linemen and stuff like that, the big five techniques and those kinds of players. So I was a little bit disappointed there, but I do agree with you. I do like Alberto. Don't get me wrong. My praise for Dulcich here. I like the player. I think he's going to be a fine young prospect for this team, but Alberto is still the guy until he's not. And like Dulcich has a long ways to go to prove he's capable of understanding the offense, which I am hearing reports that he's really grinding and trying to prepare himself for life in the NFL. He's doing a really good job staying in the building late, getting in a lot of extra work and stuff like that to work his way onto the field early. So I really do appreciate that with him. Colby
throwing some stars saying, feel better, Eric. We'll check in with him and give an update tomorrow. If he's not saying anything on Twitter or anything, we'll give an update tomorrow. We'll be back Saturday. Saturday night will be Nick and Luke tomorrow. So our Butler comes in with a good question. Says, how do you think our line is going to stack up against the rest of the AFC West elite edge rushers? It's kind of a loaded question for me because, again, I like how you put in the line, because for the most part, a tackle is going to get eaten alive if he's 1v1 against an edge rusher. They're just way superior athletes on the edge, just flat out. So you need some help. You do need some help. Quinn Miners coming in a little bit lighter and definitely more experienced will help. And I'd like to see, I'm very interested to see what happens at the center position. And is the right tackle. If you can dictate the run, they'll hold up great if I can run right at them. You know what edge rushers don't want to necessarily do? They don't want to play run. They don't want to play the run as much. They want to pin their ears back and go. They were drafted just like tight ends. I made this comment this morning. Tight ends are drafted as receivers. If they block, that's just a bonus. Nobody gets drafted in the third round because, they're a really nice blocker. Mm-hmm. No, those are the positions that have gone by the wayside, because that was the talk this morning with fullback. Guys get drafted because they can run the ball, catch the ball, sack the quarterback, make interceptions, or throw it. Not because they can do the dirty work. So if you can dictate the run, you can help neutralize those guys. If you're in third and long a lot, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm going to grab this from Malcolm really fast. We got a $2 super chat. Malcolm Brown, our friend up in Homer, Alaska, saying he would love to see an AFC West draft review. Put a pin in that, Malcolm. I will run that by Eric when he comes back one of these days. We'll see what we can't get done for you, because that does sound like a great way to kind of break down. I do an off-season breakdown of every single team at milehhighhuddle.com. So that would be a great way to break down the draft, break down the rosters for the Raiders, the Chiefs, and the Chargers, to kind of understand where we're looking at going forward. I do want to go back to that one question about the offensive line and how they're going to hold up. You're absolutely right as far as running the football, but there's another thing that you're going to get here. You have a veteran quarterback that has escapability and mobility with his legs, and that is going to help immensely with this offensive line, because not only are you getting the escapability and him running around, manipulating the pocket, extending the play with his legs and stuff like that, you're also getting this right here between the ears, behind the eye holes, a brain of exactly the pre-snap, understanding how to slide your offensive line, understanding where that blitz is coming from, understanding he has to get the football out of his hands because he's hot coming off the edge, understanding the replacement theory where you get a blitzer coming off one edge, you throw the ball to where that defender is being replaced by the offensive player. You're going to get that stuff. This offensive line, it may be a little bit makeshift. We may not know who all 5 starters are going to be this year, because I think that there's going to be a lot of competition up front, especially with Russell Wilson. He's going to want his guys up there, the guys that he trusts. So with that being said, you're with an elite quarterback, with the guys that he's going to put out in front of him that he trusts in front of him, this offensive line is actually going to gel a little bit faster than what you think. And I do agree with you, though. The center position is the one that really has me kind of curious. Is it going to be Graham Glasgow? Is it going to be Lloyd Cushenberry? Is it going to be even Quinn Miners? Because those 3 guys, completely different players. They all understand the game a little bit differently. And Quinn Miners never playing the center position at all, even except for at the Senior Bowl. and maybe a little bit last preseason, that's a large learning curve for a very important position on the offensive line.
Yeah, if you look back to last year, you start wondering, how much of it was personnel, how much of it was scheme, how much of it was I just don't want to be here, which is what I said. I saw it about week 5 where these guys started getting bullied around because it's an attitude type of thing. And, when you're constantly running up against 8, 9-man fronts, it gets awfully hard. So again, a more attack-minded offense, a quarterback that will stretch the field, hopefully everybody healthy at wide receiver. It should be a much different looking offensive line, even if it's mostly the same guys.
Yeah. I want your opinion on this, though, because Eric and I kind of went back and forth with this with Luke Polglaze on the show last week, talking about the potential of the starting 5. Obviously, you write Garrett Bowles down at left tackle and Sharpie. Fill out the rest of the offensive line for me. Who do you think is going to be playing at what spot and why?
Oh, goodness. I mean, it's hard to think that. But, I mean, right now, do you say left guard Miners, center or guards Glasgow or Miners? But Miners talked about him competing with Miners for a spot. I mean, Miners competing with Glasgow for a spot. Cushenberry, I don't think Cushenberry is. I don't think Glasgow is going to play center. I think his 6'6" frame might be a little bit of an issue. And then at right tackle, who are you looking at? Billy Turner, possibly?
Yeah. Well, and Eric was bringing up some stuff that we were talking about. I was kind of, talking about Miners at right guard specifically. Then he was saying Tom Compton and Dalton Reisner at the left guard spot. Like, that's where you're really going to see that battle there. Glasgow potentially at the center position battling with Lloyd Cushenberry. And then Billy Turner is probably going to win the right tackle spot with Tom Compton in a competition over there. And Calvin Anderson getting a look as potentially that swing tackle, backup tackle for the left side. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out, because Dalton Reisner is the Colorado kid. I mean, he's from the area. Wiggins, Colorado, I believe is where he's from. Huge Denver fan growing up. He's become a fan favorite because he's just so nice to everybody. He's a great interview and stuff like that. He wants to be out in the community, but this scheme doesn't necessarily fit what he wants to do very well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here, because Tom Compton's played all 5 positions on the offensive line. He's played left guard before, and he fits this scheme perfectly. I mean, he's handpicked by Nathaniel Hackett to come and play on this offensive line. So there's definitely some something to look out for there. Miners, I think, I really do think Miners is going to be your starter at right guard. Like, there's no way you can keep that talent off the field. He's got the athletic ability. He's got the strength, the physicality. He's got that want to grind it out, beat your ass into the ground desire to play football. Like, I love this kid. He's so much fun. And then Turner, I think, with the experience that he has, not only in the offense, but just being the veteran, he's going to win that job at the right tackle spot.
Well, it seemed to me like every move that was made early in the free agency period, it came along with the lines of, this guy's either good against a run or good blocking, good, as powerful in the trenches. Because, last year it was the teams that could impose their will in the trenches that they bullied the Broncos around. So there's been some upgrades there. There's been some addressing from a personnel standpoint, without a doubt. I think Miners is in for sure. I think Bowles is in for sure. After that, should be a fun camp. It should be a fun camp for sure.
Yep. I want to grab a couple of comments here, because Andrew jumping back in here saying they're still concerned with the offensive line, but better defense might make who wins the West. And that's a very good point. And like Scott just said, getting better in the defensive line, getting better in the trenches, controlling the ground game, controlling the clock and stuff like that. Nathaniel Hackett has made it very clear that he wants to control the football and run the football. He believes in that outside zone scheme. Controlling the clock and taking care of the football is a big way. Defensively, getting turnovers, taking the football away, which is something this Broncos team has been really bad at, despite having Vic Fangio as the head coach and that great defensive scheme where they do take the football away. Go back to that Chicago team back in 2018. They led the NFL in turnovers. Like, they haven't figured it out here in Denver. And taking the football away, those defenses that are very opportune, they make the big plays when they're mostly needed. I think Denver is in the running there on that side of the football as well. Like, they have a very good defense, ball hawking defense, guys that are very physical. They do a really good job at the catch point in the secondary. So I think that Denver might have an edge there. Scott, what do you think about that?
I think they're going to be much more attack minded on both
Yes.
sides of the ball, like you're saying. There might be some more big plays given up, but there should be some big plays on your side of things too. Something a little closer to what the Dallas Cowboys had last year. Trevon Diggs gave up a ton of yards. He also had a ton of interceptions. I almost get the feeling like Nathaniel Hackett's like, yeah, let's take some chances. If they score, who cares? Give me the ball back. I want the ball back. Let them just give me the ball back. That's all I care about. So, obviously I'm oversimplifying things, but I call it suffer ball. That's a term that we use in soccer, where you basically just park the bus and try not to let them score and try and slow things way down, take forever to get the ball back in play. That's what I felt like watching the Denver Broncos last year. It was suffer ball. They just tried to grind the clock down, limit the possessions. Maybe we'll keep it close and get a win at the end. But when you're playing not to lose on offense and you're playing not to lose on defense, you end up losing a lot of games, and it's awfully boring at the same time. So this is the thing is with Hackett and Russell Wilson. I think we all have high expectations for the win-loss record, but the one thing I'm just about darn near positive about is it's not going to be boring.
Yes, this is very true. You're 100% correct, and I completely agree with that. Travis Weber jumping in here. This one's going to be a little touchy. I will say that. I'm going to kind of tap dance around this one a little bit because I don't want to go into something that I don't know more about. There's still some legal issues that's got to come up with this, but I will address the question here. Just curious, we all know that Jeudy has a bit of an attitude, and with his recent incident, based on his character, do you feel that he is making himself expendable? I'm not going to go into a lot of the legalese part of this just because we don't know. It does sound like this is a giant nothing burger, though. It sounds like it's good. Like, she asked to drop the charges, so to me, that's not necessarily a non-starter for me. However, you've got kind of a point here. The incident, not only that incident, but the subliminal messages and his tweets and stuff like that, the attitude you see with them, just not sure how he fits in with the offense anymore. You just paid Tim Patrick. You just paid Cortland Sutton. You still got KJ Hamler. How does he fit into the fold? With Jeudy, I mean, you're talking about the former number 15 overall pick. There's still some value here. With the Broncos trading away Russell Wilson or trading for Russell Wilson, you don't have a first or second round pick next year. There's a lot of ways you can kind of attack this story and attack this question and kind of make something out of nothing here. Scott, what do you think about this?
When we talked about players, if you really wanted to try and get back in the first round or you were trying to acquire one of these veterans, there was not a lot of – you want to look at youth, you want to look at talent, you want to look at contract. The guy that ticked the box on all of those was Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
You've got depth at the wide receiver position. He's still on his rookie contract, and he's 2 years removed from being a number 15 overall pick. However, I still think that you're selling low on him. If you were to try and move on something right now and say expendable, then you're not getting any kind of return for what you could. So this is a make or break year for Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion, without a doubt. You've got your quarterback, you've got an attack-minded head coach, an offensive coordinator as your head coach. It's time to put up or shut up. You want to be the guy. You want to be treated like the guy. You want people to think of you as the guy. It's time. It's time. There are going to be, I think one of the keys isn't necessarily going to be overall production, but it's going to be that average per reception. Are you a big play guy? Because there's a lot of mouths to feed on that offense. If you get 450 carries combined out of your running backs, I think they were close to that last year, and they should have more plays this year, so they should be close. And then you got, again, we've just talked about Greg Dulcich as a rookie, Albert Okwuegbunam, Patrick, Sutton, Jeudy, Javonte, Melvin Gordon. I could go on for a little while. Hamler, where's Hamler come back into this? That it's going to be crowded. And if you want to be the guy, you're going to have to step up and make yourself heard, or to a certain extent, expendable to the point of where you're not finding yourself on the field. So in that case, I would say, yeah, absolutely.
I'm inclined to agree with you.
For me, again, it's about production. It's
it's
about production, not about the other things.
Right. So I was listening to Denver Radio 104.3 The Fan earlier today, and one of their hosts actually wrote an article on their website. And it was a projection using Jerry Jeudy's catch percentage, using his average depth of target, his average yards per reception, Russell Wilson's completion percentage, and his percentage of throwing to the second wide receiver, because just an arbitrary number here, let's call Jerry Jeudy the second wide receiver. Just the number 2 wide receiver, I guess it would be the way to the number 2 targeted receiver. He came up with a projections of, it was like 66 catches for 950 yards and 5 touchdowns. Given the landscape of what we know about Jerry Jeudy, the injury that kind of killed him for this last season with the high ankle sprain and everything like that, the rookie season where he showed a lot of promise, but he had the drops and everything, but now you finally got that quarterback. Is 66 catches for 950 and 5 touchdowns, is that enough in this offense to make it seem like this is the guy that we want to have as a focal point of our offense moving forward?
When are those catches coming?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. When is the production? The numbers are, how many of those catches are coming as first downs? How many of them are coming in garbage time? I love that little slider, that garbage time slider. Yep. That's when it matters. So if I'm Russell Wilson, where are you on my mindset for, okay, it's 3rd and 8, I need a first down? What's my first thought? Who am I first thinking of? And how long before I get to Jerry Jeudy? That's the answer to that question more than the numbers for me. What 66, 905 would make you at least get back a 2nd-round draft pick if you decided to move on from him, at least.
Yep.
So it would be good. Obviously, a good Jerry Jeudy is good for a lot of reasons. So that ends up being a very interesting question, because you can get his replacement in the later rounds next year, and maybe Hamler's that guy. Maybe Hamler ends up being that replacement in the slot to add a little more dynamics to the offense.
Right. I don't think it's necessarily going to matter, because it is, like you said, it is a make or break season for Jerry Jeudy this season. And I think that he's going to go out there. He's going to ball out. Like they're going to make him a focal point of this offense. He's going to get his touches, and he's going to be very, very good this season. I think it's a moot point, but it is definitely a conversation worth having. Like there's a reason why these conversations, these questions keep popping up, is because there are multiple different factors outside of just his play on the field that you got to kind of take into consideration. And you've also got multiple players in the room that all need to have their mouths fed. Like there's a lot of, like I said, there's so many angles and so many different holes you can poke in this argument to kind of make a very fun conversation here. But to piggyback off of that, our Butler jumping in here with a great question, saying, do you think that Russell Wilson will pick a favorite receiver, or will he spread the ball around? Another way to ask this is, do you think that we will have a 1,000-yard receiver? Well, our Butler, my bold prediction here is that the Broncos are going to have 2,000-yard receivers and another one that gets over 700. Like it's not going to be a super pass happy, but they are going to throw the football. Russell Wilson's going to throw the football 35 to 40 times, somewhere around in there. They're going to run the football probably 25 times a game, kind of keep that pass heavy balance, and they're going to distribute to everybody. Like Courtland Sutton's going to get 1,000. I think Jerry Jeudy's going to get 1,000. Tim Patrick's going to get probably another 700.
There's 4,500 yards out there. Maybe not quite that many. It's crazy to me. I just looked up Aaron Rodgers' numbers and as an example, and he was last 4 years, 4,400, 4,000, 4,300, 4,100. But he's putting the ball in the end zone and he's not giving it away. But let's just say even on the low end of things, there could be 4,000 yards. Okay. How many, unless you've got a guy who's getting 2,000 yards, then there's going to be several that are 800 or above. Several. So Jeudy should be in that mix for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Ernie says, I hear young people in the back. Yeah, you just heard my son, Gavin, was running. He was yelling at the door. So apologies for that. All right, let's get back to this conversation really fast here of the players to watch out for that could potentially lose out on their starting job or potentially even be kicked off the roster. The last one that I have here, we kind of broke it down here for just a second, was Lloyd Cushenberry. he's been hashtag not good for a while. let's just be honest here. He's been he was like a bottom 3 center in his rookie season. He kind of improved a little bit. It's really easy to improve from the bottom, but only to being a bottom 5 center last year. He doesn't have the play strength. This isn't a great scheme fit for him, although I do like the athleticism. I think there's something to be said there. However, the power, the ability to hold up in the running game and in pass protection and not just dump yourself right back into Russell Wilson's lap is a big thing here. With Miners, with Glasgow, even with Luke Wattenberg, who they just drafted, and I don't think that he's going to be in the mix at least this season. There's some issues he's got to work through, especially with some play strength as well, but he's at least a good scheme fit. Is Cushenberry on his way out in Denver? Like, is this a guy where he might not even make this roster?
I wouldn't say yet. For $1.3 million for a backup guy, even if he ends up being a replacement as an option as a guard or a center, I just don't think he's expensive enough to worry about getting rid of him. He's got, he's got experience. If he's not starting, you can keep him on this roster. I believe that. Does it get better? The first person that would tell you yes would be Lloyd Cushenberry. One of the first interviews I remember seeing from him last year was saying, listen, if I had played better, they wouldn't have needed to draft Miners because Miners was coming in as possibly as a center. However, Miners didn't beat him out at center. Wattenberg may or may not. So I don't think it's going to be Glasgow. He's 6'6", and that seems to be a problem for right now for Russell Wilson. So if not Cushenberry, then who? There's got to be another player come in, doesn't there?
Honestly, I think that with what you have, you've got Wattenberg, you've got Glasgow, you've got Miners, and it depends on how that all kind of shakes out. I would like to see another person come in, but you also have Tom Compton that can play another guard spot there as well. Dalton Reiser's still in there. There's a lot of depth to this offensive line. There's a lot of players that can actually move around, and you can kind of patchwork this together if you needed to. I do think that Cushenberry stays on this roster. I'm not saying that he's going to get kicked off. I kind of want to throw that out as a hot take. However, what about a trade? What about somebody that loses their starting center in training camp and they're looking for a guy? Has Cushenberry played well enough to keep him on the roster if a team comes and offers you like a 6th-round pick for him? I don't think so.
You mentioned guys right now that are options. Glasgow? No. Miners? No. Wattenberg? Probably not. So right now, by default, it's Cushenberry. But, that doesn't mean that things won't change between now and August for sure.
Right.
So I'm thinking, that come June 1st, you're going to be constantly looking at the waiver wires, see who's going to be available. And there's going to be options there because I don't know. We'll see. It's a big camp for Lloyd Cushenberry for sure.
It really is.
Because if the offensive line is a liability again, you're not quite as bad off as you were last year because you've got a much better quarterback, but it's not going to be the type of season that a lot of us are thinking the Broncos can have.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, like I said, I just want to have these conversations. It's fun. This is off-season talk where we can talk about anything else other than the quarterback. And I'm kind of new to this. Eric and I have been doing this podcast for almost 3 years. I believe in August will actually be 3 years that Eric and I have been doing this. And ever since I started working for Mile High Huddle, even just doing articles and stuff like that, we've had this quarterback conversation. Now to be able to discuss the depth and the overall building of this Broncos roster, where we can actually have these fun conversations based on who's here, who they brought in, stuff like that. It's just fun to be able to have that. Andrew Baker jumping in here. Russ probably wants to play pass first, but we have a good run game to complement that. So with one ball to go around, how much does the run game get? I think Scott actually hit the number. It's going to be probably somewhere between 400 and 450. I do think that, and there might be even a little bit more than that. Don't count out Mike Boone either.
I think they split 203 each last year, and Mike Boone didn't get anything. I think he had like 2 carries. So you're looking at 400, but I think there will be more plays this year, considerably more offensive plays this year. So it could still be right there in the 400, 425 range. So I'll say 425 over under.
I'm pretty inclined to agree with you on that one. As far as Mike Boone is concerned, though, so let's see here. I'm trying to find the total plays number for the Broncos this last season. Bear with me here. But as far as Mike Boone is concerned, there's another player that you have that's on this roster that could potentially be on his way out, or at least not have a big role. I mean, he had the hamstring or the quad injury. I can't remember what it was in training camp last season. But with Javonte Williams, the rise of Javonte Williams, they brought Melvin Gordon back to help kind of bolster that depth. They still have Demaria Crockett, who they really like, probably going to be a practice squad player. But Mike Boone, I mean, where does he fit in on this offense? Like, that's another mouth to feed that you got to figure out. And he's probably going to be a lot more on the special team side of things. I will fully admit that. But like kickoff,
$2 million and change.
Yeah, exactly. That's an expensive running back to have on your special teams. Like,
yeah, I mean, again, 4 carries last year, and he played like 60 snaps on special teams last year. You know, that's good work if you can get it. It was 455 total rushes last year. 35 of those came from the quarterbacks. So, you know, round down and call it in the 420 range again. Because there weren't a lot of designed runs on that. But Mike Boone, I kept hearing the same thing over and over in my head. And I said it here before. Every time I heard someone say, we need to draft a running back, this is before Melvin Gordon was coming back, or sign a running back, I'm thinking that Melvin Gordon then Mike Boone's expendable. He's gone. I mean, you're making, in some places, some of the poverty franchises, you're making starters money. At best, you're making number 2 running back money. You're number 3 running back and a special teams guy who we just drafted a returner for you. You know, so what's he special teams? What am I paying $2 million for a gunner? You know, what's he doing on special teams that's so amazing? That's worth $2 million and change. And again, I said, well, if there's an injury, then you're going to need him. Yeah, and you know, running backs can come in and fill a hole like that, or a dime a dozen, literally. Yeah. So the whole Mike Boone thing is a little confounding to me.
I don't disagree with you, but I do want to give him a shout out for his ability as a pass blocker and as a receiver out of the backfield. He is a very good third down back, and that's something that the Broncos don't currently have as far as a guy that could just be that third down player. Now, Melvin Gordon is very good on third down. Don't get me wrong. He's very good in pass protection, very good out of the backfield. Javonte Williams, we still need to see some more out of him before I want to throw him out there consistently.
9 receptions in his career.
Like that's what I'm getting at. Like he doesn't have the opportunities.
He's got 9 receptions. I mean, this is replaceable, y'all. I mean,
yes. Yeah. But
you can replace this with a phone call the week of the game, for God's sakes. Not for $2 million and change.
So I got the statistic here. I want to pivot off of this really fast. We're running out of time. We've only got a couple of minutes before we got to get out of here, but I do want to ask your opinion on this one. So last year, according to Pro Football Reference, the Broncos ran 1,036 total plays. Obviously that was with bad quarterback play, some turnovers and stuff like that they had. So you're going to lose out there. You got better quarterback play. You're going to have longer and more sustained drives, hopefully with a more explosive offense that doesn't take, the big play and
play calling, a more aggressive,
exactly.
A more aggressive offense and defense. There should be more possessions.
Yep. So I want to set the over-under here at, we'll call it, 1,036. I'll call it 1,200. Over-under.
I was thinking 1,200. That's where I was like 1,200, 1,250 for total plays.
Yep. So over-under 1,200. What do you think?
That's 3 games worth. I'll go over because I was thinking 1,250. So I'll take the over on 1,200 plays.
I was going to go right at 1,200. I was probably like 1,220 or something like that. So I'll take the over on that as well. I do think that you're going to see a lot more points, obviously, which this was something I did not realize. So the Broncos last season, they actually had a positive point differential. I thought that there was a little bit closer to the even point differential. They were actually plus 13 in point differential last season. So
they tried to keep everything close for the most part and did. The Kansas City game is a good example. Let's try and strangle this game down to nothing. And then they blew out a couple teams. They blew out the Lions. They blew out the Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken. Looking at the scores, they won the first ones. They came out of it.
Well, they had a shutout in there too. So they shut out the Jets in week 3. We were at that game.
Yeah, there you go. So they came out of the first couple of weeks with a plus 50.
Yep, exactly.
And then their losses for the most part it was just more disheartening. It's not like they were getting waxed. You're losing by 4 touchdowns. It was just that, we're down 10 and it's over. I can go cut the grass. I can go blow leaves. I can shovel snow. I can do something else because there's no coming back because this team they've given up.
You might as well have done that anyways because it was that boring. I mean, going and blowing your leaves and shoveling your yard and stuff like that would have been a hell of a lot more entertaining than than watching the Broncos for last year.
It's not going to be boring. I promise you that. Nate, Nathaniel Hackett, I call him Nate. What am I calling him Nate for? Just because I'm like, a decade and a half older than him.
Well, you're on a first name basis with him. It's fine. We all know how you roll. Come on, Scott. One last comment here, and we'll run the matters of business here and get out of here for the weekend. Travis Weber jumping in here. Great show tonight, Lance. Again, congratulations. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate you, buddy. Eric, get well and hope to see you next Friday. Enjoy your weekend, Broncos country. Let's ride. And thank you, Travis. You enjoy your weekend as well. So, Ernie jumping in here saying, awesome pod, Lance and Scott. Thank you, Ernie. We appreciate you, man. And again, Eric, who is sitting behind the scenes right now, but I want to wish my best well wishes to you, Eric. Get better, dude. Like, seriously, I'm glad you got to join in and listen to the rest of the show. But it gives us a thumbs up is what he says. He's feeling a little bit better. So that's good news for everybody. So thank you, Eric. We appreciate you, buddy. But with that, guys, we're going to get out of here tonight. Thank you all for joining us on DVDD. You guys can follow us on Twitter by finding me at Sanderson MHH. For Scott, since he's on screen first, at Scout Kennedy. And for Eric, at Erick Trickel. Also, big thanks to Scott for filling in on the fly to join in and help me finish the rest of the show, because I guarantee you, if I did this by myself, it would have been a disaster. While you're at it on the Twit machine, guys, go to at DVDD_pod. That's where you're going to find out what we're talking about every single Friday. Also, guys, at Mile High Huddle. That's the mother account where you get your breaking news and analysis, film breakdowns like my Nick Benito piece that just went up. Was it Wednesday? I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday. Tuesday. Go check that out. MileHighHuddle.com.
They run together.
I know, right? It's
what
crazy.
Day is it? Let's see. Football's tonight. It's Thursday night. Okay, Thursday night. Okay,
yeah,
no football tonight. Must be Friday.
Exactly, right? I know I'm here with you on that one. But anyways, film breakdowns, opinion articles, news analysis, anything regarding the Broncos, you'll find it at Mile High Huddle on Twitter. Also, guys, on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. That's the podcast account where you guys can join in on the conversation over on Facebook as well. Kind of, boost your followers group and your friends list and stuff like that. Mingle with each other. There's a lot of great people, a lot of wonderful comments and commentary in the Mile High Huddle community. Get over to facebook.com and give us a follow over there as well. Folks, if you're financially able to do so, please head on over huddleuppod.com. That's the merch tent, guys, where you guys get yourself a hat. There's a t-shirt. Eric has his Dove Valley Deep Divers t-shirt on right now. There's a hoodie, a face mask, coffee cup. You've got the Broncos for breakfast coffee cup in the morning. I need to get myself one of those, by the way. I haven't got there, but I will. Anything to suit your fancy, guys. Something for the guys, something for the gals, even a onesie for your baby if that's your bag. But huddleuppod.com, that's where you're going to be able to get that kind of stuff. And guys, if you're not financially able to do so, we understand inflation's killing everybody. Hold on to your money if you can. Do what you do. Take care of your families first, okay? Even super chats and stuff like that. It's great. We love your support. But the best way you guys can really support us is these three things down at the bottom of the screen. It's on a ticker now. Subscribe wherever you guys are watching this, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, does not matter. Subscribe to Mile High Huddle. Like every video you guys see, including this one. We've got 26 like emojis and stuff like that right now. We're on Facebook, and I'm sure probably 35 or more over on YouTube. So like every video you guys see, and if you love it, share it. Get it in front of as many Broncos fans as humanly possible, because without your guys' support, we couldn't do what we do best, which is cover your Denver Broncos. Now, Scott, I don't typically get to ask you this. Any last words, man?
No, glad I could go in. It looks like Eric's feeling better, which is hopefully his feeling. Gave us a thumbs up. That was the most important thing. So everybody have a good weekend. I'll be up behind the scenes again tomorrow night for let me see, Saturday Carry the One for Mile High Insiders.
Yes, Mile High Insiders, Nick and Luke, tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you guys are in the room. Get your comments in, get your questions in. Those guys do a really good job on Mile High Insiders. Scott, thank you again for filling in. Very last notice. I mean, on the fly in the middle of the show is just a tremendous work. And thank you for joining in. It was a great conversation, dude. We needed to do this again. But with that, guys, we're going to get out of here. You all stay safe and take care. Have a great rest of your weekend. Also, programming, though, again, next weekend I will not be here. Thank you all for all the congratulations and all the kind words and everything like that. Luke Polglaze will be back to join Eric next week to break down some of these Broncos draft picks. But with that, guys, stay safe, take care, have a great weekend. We will catch you guys same time, same place here in 2 weeks, at least for me. But next week, and as always, guys, go Broncos.